When I was researching and playing GameCube games for this video, something almost hit me instantly. The GameCube is absolutely packed with amazing games, and it was definitely an underrated console in its heyday. From the ergonomically perfect GameCube controller to the blazing fast input latency with the controls, the GameCube has style, speed, substance, and most importantly, the games. Now, while Nintendo hasn't officially announced or confirmed any type of Nintendo GameCube games for the Nintendo Switch Online service, I have a feeling announced for the next Nintendo Switch system in the near future. So in this video, I'll be counting down the top 25 games that need to come to the service, but notably, I will be leaving out big GameCube games like Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and others that have or will receive future Nintendo Switch versions. So just keep that in mind. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into number 25, and that is the Naruto Clash of Ninja series. Now, Naruto is a special type of series for me. If you've known my channel, I love the Naruto anime. I watch it all the time, Boruto, whatever, people can talk about it, but that's one of my favorites and it inspired me to just do better overall. I loved the series, and the games in today's day aren't very good. Like, they're just not very good. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, it's on the Nintendo Switch and it's fine for what it is, but the Clash of Ninja series to me always struck a special type of gameplay balance between something like Tekken and something like an arena fighter, but kind of mixed in together to create a really cool action anime fighting game that didn't feel so stagnant, didn't feel so cheap and flimsy, actually had tons of combos and depth, a good amount of characters, good gameplay, everything was smooth and nice to play, and it wasn't overly gimmicky like a lot of these arena fighters with these one button combat and everything. The Naruto Clash of Ninja series and Naruto Clash of Ninja 2 to be exact improved upon so many different things from the original game, but the series is still to this day played and lauded as one of the best anime fighting games out there. So if they were to bring a Naruto game to the modern consoles, this would be the game to bring over, just because of everything that I mentioned: the awesome controls, the great gameplay, the Tekken style combat, the combos that you can do, the depth. It's not just a button masher like we see with so many of the anime games today. So that's exactly the reason why Naruto Clash of Ninja, the series, makes it to number 25 on my list. Number 24, Battalion Wars. This is a old but great franchise that Nintendo just kind of forgot about, I guess. I mean, we've had the Battalion Wars games. Yes, we have Advance Wars. That's pretty much, I would say, taken over as the Wars game of choice for people to play. But I still think that there is an audience for this type of combat, kind of goofy simulator strategy type of game. It's really cool. I like the different units that you can get. I think the gameplay is really smooth and fun. The controls are good, and I feel that overall it would be a nice, I would say, different style of game to bring to a service like this that would get the people who knew about the Battalion Wars franchise, and I think there was one on the Wii as well. I think it would kind of get them to be interested in the service a bit more. GameCube has so many of these games that are just kind of forgotten to time, and this is absolutely one of them. But I think that with the recent release of Advance Wars, I think that Battalion Wars could also make its comeback, and we could get some awesome action on the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2, wherever we decide to put it at when it comes down to it, of Battalion Wars coming back. There are multiple games, so maybe they bring over the series, but I would love to see it come back because it was a very fun type of game to play and very different from what you see in today's day. So Battalion Wars makes the number 24 on my list. Number 23, Def Jam Vendetta. These games need to come back. And it was a couple years ago where the official Def Jam Vendetta Twitter account actually trolled all of us, getting a bunch of followers with a bait and switch, basically teasing that they were going to bring back Def Jam Vendetta, and then they never did after they hit that. So I'll never forgive them for that because I loved Def Jam Vendetta back in the day. It's a wrestling game, but it used a bunch of rappers and entertainers, mainly rappers for the most part, and it was just dope. It had a cool story mode, had great controls, and it had a lot of different moves, and of course great music. So to me, Def Jam Vendetta is one of those games that's probably going to be impossible to bring back because of the licenses that you would need for all the different rappers and everything. It would be hard, but if they could bring it back, we've seen crazier things happen in the gaming industry. So if they could bring this one back, I would absolutely love it because of everything that I mentioned. And it's one of those things to where we don't really have a glut of different type of wrestling games in today's day. Yes, there's a lot of indie stuff and retro things, and there's the WWE, but this type of wrestling game with all these different rappers or different styles of people that you just wouldn't normally see is something that most developers aren't going to take any chance of when it comes to a AAA game, at least. So if Def Jam Vendetta could come back, I would absolutely love that, and that's why it's number 23 on my list. Next up at number 22, X-Men Legends. And I know some of you guys are like, woo, yeah, X-Men, it's back. Yes, X-Men Legends is awesome. And yes, Nintendo did bring back the Marvel Alliance games, but I do think that X-Men Legends has a special place in people's heart in terms of the first game to kind of do that 4-player isometric combat RPG hybrid type of thing with superheroes. And it was super cool because the story in that game to me might still to this day be the best out of the different Ultimate Alliance games and the X-Men Legends games. That series just had a fantastic scope to it. And it was a ton of fun to play with friends, and I think it would be the first time, maybe there's some type of other release, but it could be the first time that you'd be able to play X-Men Legends 1 and 2, just the Legends series, with your friends online. I'm not sure if they had that before back in the day, because this was a 6th generation game, but man, I think it would be super cool to be able to suit up as different X-Men in there, bring the game over wholesale. Obviously, all games with NSO that has online play with your friends automatically inserted in there. So I'm not exactly sure who has the license to the games, what's going on with it, what could happen. But please bring back X-Men Legends if it's going to come to the NSO. Obviously, we're not going to see any type of remaster or remake at this point, but I think that an NSO release could do some really cool things, and the GameCube version is nice to play too. It's fun as well. So X-Men Legends, number 22 on the list. Number 21, Splinter Cell, the series. People don't remember, Splinter Cell used to be a big thing in gaming, and yeah, they're rebooting it. We're gonna get back to Splinter Cell, the remake, or what they're doing, but man, I'm telling you, these were some of the most graphically intense, best stealth simulator action games outside of Metal Gear Solid. A lot of people actually even preferred Splinter Cell over Metal Gear Solid because of the different gadgets and arrays that you can get, because of the different style of combat and what it was, kind of like the shadow agent for the CIA and the backstabbing, all the different things that happened. It was a completely different vibe and tone than what we saw with Metal Gear, and I think that that was good. It was competition. Both series wanted to kind of outdo one another in their own way, and to me, Splinter Cell was like the pinnacle, or one of the pinnacles, of third-party GameCube graphics and great game design, especially Chaos Theory. That game was phenomenal. So if they can bring back the Splinter Cell series, bring back the games on the NSO service, that's once again something that would get people incredibly excited. And it's not like Ubisoft is putting them on HD or doing anything with them anyway, for the most part, outside of the remake that's taking forever to come out. So to me, Splinter Cell would be a perfect candidate for an NSO, Nintendo Switch 2, NSO, GameCube type of thing. And I'm hoping one of these days people can experience the greatness that is Splinter Cell, because a lot of people did not grow up to know how good this series is. And this could absolutely be a blast from the past for people to try out the series. All right, guys, before we get into more of it, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell if you are enjoying the countdowns, Nintendo Switch content, and more here on the channel. Thank you so much, and let's go ahead and jump right back in to number 20, and that is Star Fox Adventures. This is a game that people have been asking to get a remaster, a re-release, a remake, a re-something for quite some time, and I think it was a misunderstood title when it first came out. Because remember, this was supposed to be something that wasn't even a Star Fox game. The Miyamoto saw it and said, hey, this could be a Star Fox game, and it got turned into a Star Fox game. To, I would say, pretty good results overall. Now, yes, the design is a little bit dated when it comes down to it, but that's part of the charm, and it runs like a dream for the most part on the GameCube. This would be a great game that I think that people would appreciate now more in today's day. Maybe some would be upset because Star Fox, in terms of a series, still has not came back with a big, high quality HD title that people can play on their Nintendo Switch or any HD system, because Star Fox Zero is mixed overall when it comes to what people think about it, but I still feel that people would appreciate what they were trying to do with Star Fox Adventures and some of the things that was birthed from this franchise that's actually been awesome for Star Fox. So to me, Star Fox Adventures would be a great game to bring back. It does have fairly good controls. It does have good graphics for the GameCube. Like I said, it runs really smooth on there as well. And I think it'd be an interesting game for people to play, and for people, once again, that are new to this scene, to kind of play something that's really awkward and a little bit weird, right? To see these Star Fox characters in this universe, but it could introduce them for the first time to Star Fox and to some of the characters that are in this franchise. So to me, I think it's a win-win. Star Fox Adventures coming back on the GameCube NSO one of these days. Next up at number 19, NFL Street, the series. Yes, the GameCube was a sports magnet. That was back when sports games, when EA, they had pizzazz, they had spice, they had zest, they had everything that made you go, yes, sports are great. So many of my friends that sometimes weren't even into the sports, like NFL or like baseball or any of these, would play the EA sports games that they would bring out because they were so fun. They were arcade, like Blitz, for example. People loved Blitz, and NFL Street essentially was like Blitz, but then also like NBA Street, which we are going to be talking about later, like NBA Street, and kind of put them together to create a very fun arcade NFL game. I absolutely loved it. And as a former American football player myself, me and my friends on the team, we had so much fun playing this game. And you go out there, you hit people, you do different tricks, you can run off the wall. The Street series is fantastic, and this game would go dummy with online play. So I want to see it come back. EA is completely sleeping on all of these great games that they have just locked up in a well somewhere, in a digital well somewhere, and just not doing anything with. So I hope NFL Street comes back, and it would be awesome to see it. All they do now is FIFA and like what? Yeah, FIFA, Ultimate Team, and Madden, you know? Yeah, those are kind of, it is what it is on that. So yes, NFL Street in at number 19 on the list. Number 18, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. And honestly, you can put a lot of the different Star Wars games on this list, especially the Factor 5 Star Wars games. Those were incredible in terms of what they did with the tech on the GameCube, the 60 frames per second, the visual quality, the audio, everything there was super high quality and very nice, and showed that the GameCube can definitely put up some incredible visuals. Because yes, we know now that the GameCube was good overall, especially in comparison to the PS2 and the Xbox being ahead of it, but still pretty good when it comes down to it. But back then, there were absolutely people saying that the GameCube was the weakest system and that it can't put out visuals as good as PS2 and nowhere near the Xbox. And games like Star Wars Rogue Leader Rogue Squadron 2 were like, no, this is pretty much something that we can do right now on the GameCube, and it's very impressive. So I would love to see that come back, just from a technical beast standpoint, for people to see what they were doing, but also for fans of the Star Wars games. And I don't really like Star Wars that much, but I played a ton of the games growing up. I played all of the games for the most part because I thought that the themes and that the weapons and what Star Wars stood for was really cool. So it's not just Star Wars Rogue Leader. I mean, all of the different Star Wars games are really cool. So hopefully we get those on a GameCube NSO in the future. Next up at number 17, WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games. You gotta have some party games on here, and I thought about Mario Party games. Those would be really cool, but we already have Mario Party Superstars, which takes a bunch of different games, the best games, right, from various different ones, and kind of matches them together. So when I'm making a list here, I'm thinking about stuff that would be really cool that we don't quite have in this type of way. And while we do have WarioWare, I think this one on the GameCube is just so awesome. If I had to pick out of all the different WarioWare games, which one's my favorite, it's probably WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games. And I'm not a big WarioWare guy or anything. You can mix them all up however you want. For me, it's really the top 10 where I'm really kind of honed in on. But yeah, I think it's a great game, and maybe they would bring it back. They've brought WarioWare to the different NSO in terms of systems, I think GBA and stuff. So I think this would definitely be a candidate, and people would feel, whoa, WarioWare is actually really, really good in terms of what they did even on the GameCube back in the day. They might like it more than the newer WarioWare games out there. So WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games makes it number 17 on my list. Number 16, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. And man, this game was crazy. I remember playing this game back in the day. I bought it, I think at GameStop for like 20 bucks. It was like used, it was a crusty box. I bought it used and I had no idea what the game was about. I did see on game rankings back in the day that it had like a high 80s or 90 rating or whatever it was at that point. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy it because people say the game is good, right? So I didn't really know what it was about. I just saw it on sale, looked it up and said, okay, let's go. And I bought it. And I remember that first scene with the bathtub and that it just scared the crap out of me, man. I was just scared. And ever since then I was hooked to it. I played it, played all the different endings, experienced the game, and it was really interesting because it had this cool mechanic where based on your sanity meter, like things could happen to you. The game would mess with you. So for example, sometimes you would walk into a room and your head would just get chopped off and you're like, what the heck? Am I hallucinating? And it would say, do you want to continue? And your head would go up to the screen. It was crazy in terms of some of the stuff that it would do. Now later in the game, it all gets resolved with that in terms of you being able to lower your meter. But at the beginning of the game and middle of the game, it was crazy to see what different effects would happen to you. It was almost like fourth wall breaking, right? And all that. So I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. And I think it's become somewhat of a cult classic at this point. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. Nintendo keeps re-upping their trademarks for it and stuff. Maybe one of these days, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, makes a comeback that we all know it deserves. Number 15, the original Luigi's Mansion. We've got Luigi's Mansion 3. We've got Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Well, we need Luigi's Mansion, the original, right? We need to complete the trifecta here. Luigi's Mansion games are obviously very popular at this point. Luigi's Mansion 3 sold 10 million, 12 million units plus, something like that. Luigi's Mansion 2 is probably going to sell really well on the Nintendo Switch. And Luigi's Mansion is stuck on two platforms between the GameCube and the Nintendo 3DS. So maybe they bring that over, just the original GameCube version. They don't have to remake or redo the game again. Just bring it over on the GameCube. It's not a very long game, but it's a very fun game, and it's a game that kind of started up this legend, even at this point, of Luigi kind of being Luigi, right? We already knew he was Luigi and everything, but before then, on the GameCube, Luigi didn't have, to me at least, the type of personality that he's synonymous with now at this point. Because back on Mario 3, and even with the show, you kind of saw his timidness and some of the stuff that he would do, but it wasn't to the level that they show with the expressions of his face and the gameplay of the ghosts and kind of moving around and what Luigi was about. So to me, this is an iconic game that would have to come to the GameCube NSO. If there was going to be one, like Luigi's Mansion has to be there, and they've already remade it once, so bring it over one more time, Nintendo. You guys can do it. Luigi's Mansion. And at number 15. And keeping with the horror themes at number 14, Resident Evil, the remake. Now, when this game came out, I was absolutely floored by the graphics. I looked at this game and was like, look at how awesome this looks. The GameCube is a beast. And when I played that game, because I played the original Resident Evil on PS1 and I was scared out of my mind, man. Like, I tried to get through that game and I was just having trouble. I just said, you know what, I don't want to. Plus I ran out of money because I was only renting it when it comes to at a place where you can sit down and play games. Like per an hour, you pay like a couple dollars. So I was kind of running out of money and I'm like, I'm good, I'm scared, and I'm good. But when I got the game on the GameCube, I was like, all right, let me go ahead and check this out. Let me play through it. And it was just such a huge upgrade visually, music-wise. Everything was just so awesome. That controller with the GameCube. And I think that that preservation of what that game was about would fit perfectly on the go with the Nintendo Switch, with the Nintendo Switch 2, with what they're doing with the GameCube NSO when that becomes a thing. I think that it would be awesome to have it on there. But of course, you know, Capcom, they've done some re-releases of Resident Evil games on Nintendo platforms, but this to me would have to be the one that would be on the NSO, just for how iconic this original Resident Evil game is. And still, some people consider this the greatest remake of all time, just overall, and the impact on what it did. So Resident Evil Remake makes it into number 14 on the list. Number 13, Soul Calibur 2. The Nintendo platforms have not gotten a Soul Calibur in decades. All of the other Soul Calibur games that have came out have been on Xbox and PlayStation or PC. There was one game on the Wii that was like an action game and it was terrible. So we haven't had anything since then. And I think now would be the time. This would be it. And Link is in the game. It sells itself. You can play as Link in the game, and you can play online against your friends, because it would be awesome to do so with Link and all the different characters. Soul Calibur, to me, also was another one of these graphical beast games. I originally played it on the Dreamcast. That was an exclusive at the time, at least, and I was blown away by how good the game looks, how smooth the controls were, how awesome everything was. Loved using Maxi with the nunchakus and just tearing stuff up. So when I got Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube, I was like, wow, this is taking it to the next level with the controls, with the gameplay, with everything the game does. And like Link was like the green cherry on top there with how awesome the game already was, with everything else that it was doing with the single player and the modes and the combat. So to me, Soul Calibur 2, we get two birds with one stone, right? Knock out two birds with one stone. You get a Soul Calibur game finally on something modern Nintendo hardware, but then also you get an online version to where you can play against your friends in there. So you kind of get the best of both there. So Soul Calibur 2 makes the number 13 on the list. Coming in at number 12, Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. And yes, I know, don't flame me in the chat, Metal Gear Solid purists. There are some things that are a little bit wonky with this when it comes to the cutscenes and the order and the story, and I get that, but I still really enjoyed Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. And yes, some of the things that they do, taking the engine from Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty and putting that into here, makes things way easier. But at the time when I was playing the game, I was just floored by, one, how good it looks, which is a common theme to me. It's like, I'm not a graphics person, but to me, this is where graphics peaked to me, to where I was like super impressed with how things looked across all the different platforms. But Twin Snakes to me just kind of took it to a new level, because you have the great stealth gameplay that we saw, that I played on the PS1, but it looked 10 times better, and the animations and motions were super smooth. The story was all there, the voice acting hit, everything was just in line, and the controls pinpoint and precise with that GameCube controller, and the input latency, or the lack thereof, the response time overall was just so great. So to me, Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes is a quintessential GameCube game, and one of the few Nintendo Metal Gear Solid releases before the Metal Gear Solid collection, where we got a bunch of the games. But before then, you did not see a ton of Metal Gear Solid games on Nintendo hardware, so it was also unique in that right. So to me, Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes makes it number 12 on the list. Number 11, Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon Gale of Darkness. We're kind of doing a little bit of a double pack here, just so we don't have a bunch of the same franchise games, which I've already done a little bit. But Pokemon Colosseum and Gale of Darkness to me kind of represents Game Freak, or at least Nintendo, and them all trying to work together to get something that would land on a console, and be as successful, or even a fraction as successful as what they saw on the portables. Now, none of these games were able to do that, but they still showed off some incredible graphics. They still had cool linking capabilities when it comes to Colosseum, and being able to play with the Pokemon on the big screen and battle against your friends and everything, and would add online play, because I do not think this one, at least Pokemon Colosseum, had online play. Gale of Darkness is more of a single player adventure, and once again tried to do things a little bit different from what we saw on the portable systems, and created a different adventure for people to go through and play, and something that I didn't really play until later. I didn't play it right when it came out. I think I played it years later, and while they're not my favorites, I realized how awesome that they could be bringing that back and having just something different when it comes to Pokemon on the NSO. And yes, we don't have many Pokemon games, or really any Pokemon games on the NSO at this point, but I think these ones pose no threat to what the Pokemon company is doing with the main line games overall. It's not like their main line Pokemon Red, Blue, or anything like that. So these ones could come over, just like we saw with Pokemon Stadium 1 and Pokemon Stadium 2. They could come over, and they would be awesome for people to pick up and play, and be a reason to go pick up the NSO, whatever tier they're gonna do next for this one here. So Pokemon Colosseum and Gale of Darkness absolutely deserves the number 11 spots on my list. All right, guys, getting into the top 10 here. Here are where the heavy hitters and bangers land. Number 10, Super Mario Strikers. people are really upset with the sports games that come out today with Nintendo. So bring back the old ones, right? Bring back the old ones and let people go ham on their online and play. People tell me, and I've played it myself. Now I'm researching this video. I've played it way more because I didn't play Mario Strikers as much back then, but I played it way more now. And it's an awesome game. Yes, it doesn't have a bunch of content or anything like that, and that might make some people upset, but I think they'd be more willing to deal with it as it's a old GameCube game compared to it being a brand new release. But the controls are still incredible. The balance is still there. The gameplay is a ton of fun, and it's not as busy as the newer one, right? With Mario Strikers Battle League, there's not as many crazy things that just make things a little bit too hectic. This one feels a bit better overall. Now, some people do like the Wii version, maybe a bit more, but that one hurt my hands because you weren't allowed to use, I think, a Pro Controller, and you had to use the Wiimote and Nunchuck. So I would like the GameCube version, and I think this would work really well for people that are kind of fed up or tired of the current sports games. Just bring back some of the old ones like we saw before. And heck, we can bring back some of the other ones, right? We got Mario Golf Toadstools Tour, the Mario Tennis game on here. We can pretty much group them all together in there. Just bring back all the different sports games that were on the GameCube because they were all really good. So Super Mario Strikers and the other Mario sports games all make it in at number 10. Number 9, the NBA Street Series. Oh man, I gotta tell you something right now. I grew up in the height of the NBA / Streetball revolution across the United States. Everyone thought they were hot sauce. Everyone thought they were the professor. Everyone thought that they were main event or skip to my Lou. If you don't know who these people are, go look up and one Streetball.
Yeah, look at the whole on headache. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Everybody thought they were them or wanted to be them and trying to do tricks out there. And this game, NBA Street, came out right at the right time at the height of the And1 tour and everything, and it blew up. And I love this game. NBA Street Volume 2 in particular is quite possibly one of the greatest games made of all time. Completely rock solid gameplay, great story mode, great characters, great gameplay, just a ton of fun. Even people who've never played basketball, just like NFL Street, but I think to me a little bit even better than NFL Street because of how it simulated the arcade NBA Jam experience, but added in a whole new layer of mechanics with the different moves that you can do, the different street ball moves that give you points that you can shake and fake out your defender, break their ankles, throw it off their head, throw it off the backboard, all of these cool things that you would see sometimes in NBA games, almost all the time in street ball, that you would go out there at Rutgers Park or at some of these iconic places and see them play basketball, or even with your friends on the street. So to me, NBA Street was a cultural type of game that transcended just the video games and went into culture and was just awesome. So I would love to see it, man. NBA Street needs to make its return, and that's why it's number 9 on my list. Coming in at number 8, F-Zero GX, and this would probably be number 1 for many people out there because F-Zero fans have been starved up until recently, where we did get the F-Zero 99, and they're doing a good job with updating it and putting new things in the game and saying, okay, here, you can have this and all of that, but it's still not quite that big 3D F-Zero game, new one that people want. But maybe there's not going to be a new game. Okay, there's not going to be a new game, but F-Zero GX, that is a game that still to this day that people love and play. And if you brought that over and now it has true online with you and your friends, that would be something that would get people excited to check out whatever tier NSO is on. This tier or just NSO for the first time if they had it there. It's still silky smooth, tons of racers, so much speed overall. And I'm not the biggest F-Zero fan out there, but F-Zero GX is absolutely one of the games that I feel that should be on there. And I think that this one is kind of more for the culture, right? More for the GameCube, the fans, the Nintendo fans out there than anything, because I think F-Zero GX just represents so much. There's so many F-Zero fans out there as the pinnacle, best possible gameplay that maybe F-Zero could have outside of just having better graphics or more modes or other things to do. So F-Zero GX makes it number 8 on the list. Number 7, SSX 3. And yes, SSX, the tricky I mean, like, seriously, what's going on with EA? What's going on with EA? They used to have this whole tagline of EA big and have all these cool games like I talked about with NFL Street, NBA Street, and SSX. And what's happening? These are great games. This is a great game with cool different tricks, great graphics, cool combo modes, lots of different story elements and gameplay, content, multiplayer. It has it all, and they're just leaving it. SSX 3 is one of the best GameCube games out there. It is phenomenal, and the fact that we don't have it in some type of modern way would just increase the appetite, right, for people to pick up this NSO or what was happening here. What I loved about SSX 3 the most to me was the tricks and the controls. It felt like butter, just felt like smooth butter, like a hot knife through butter when you were playing the game. I don't know how to translate that feeling out there, but it felt like that, man. Everything felt like whenever you messed up or if you didn't get a trick or if you were riding down or you crashed, it was your fault. And that's the common thing with so many of these GameCube games, is that the controls are so good. It's smooth. It's either 60 frames per second or it's locked in at 30 frames, and the controls just work. They never fight against what you're doing, and that's how SSX 3 was, and that's how I played it back then. Great game, so much fun. So hopefully EA has some type of plan with Nintendo to bring this back. If they're not going to do a remake or a remaster, I would love to see it back in this form at the least. Next up at number 6, Mario Kart Double Dash. Yes, the Double Dash, the mode that people want Nintendo to go back to, or something that say, hey, bring back Double Dash. Make Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart 10 and have a Double Dash mode in there, because so many people love the strategy, the mechanics, the balance, the snaking, all the different things that Mario Kart Double Dash did. And remember, there was no online play, which was so disheartening. There were ways to do it online with certain ghetto services like Warp Pipe and stuff like that back then, but there was no real official way. Now, there was LAN, which I did do one time, and I can say this very confidently with all my chest, man. Mario Kart Double Dash LAN play with 8 players. I think you can do more than that, but with 8 players that I had when I played it back in, like, I think it was 2004, 2005 with my friends, that was the most fun that I've ever had with the Mario Kart game, and it's not even close, right? Not even close. So if you can bring back Mario Kart Double Dash, and now you actually have teaming up with 2 people per kart with you and your friends, and you can play in lobbies and rooms and just kind of get after it, that would be incredible. That would be so much fun. It would be a great thing to do, to where you don't actually have to remake the game or worry about it being this next big thing, and just have it there for people to play on top of whatever you're going to do next. So to me, Mario Kart Double Dash, definitely deserving of number 6. Could have even been higher. I was contemplating it on my list. Coming in at number 5, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Yes, Melee, which probably won't happen, but you never know, right? If there's one way to kind of get people excited, right, about Nintendo's franchises, especially some of their older franchises, it's Super Smash Bros. It's almost like an advertisement. So yes, they don't want things to cut into the sales of the newer games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I don't think Melee would in this sense, right? Obviously, it wouldn't be like Melee that's out there for people to play, where it's like a whole separate thing and they have like their whole ranking system and all of that. It'd just be between you and your friends at this point, right? And I think that would be good enough for many people out there, or just see what they're doing, or at least most of the Nintendo fans that don't care about the super competitive play. But Melee is still to this day played, and it's for good reason. It's an incredibly immaculately crafted game. It's got so much depth and strategy with wave dashing and with crouch canceling and with all the different advanced techniques that players have out there that make it still one of the most popular games out there from a competitive standpoint. And people still love Melee. They still play it, pick it up even casually just to play with their friends. And that's how you know that Sakurai was a goated developer, I think, at that point, because Super Smash Bros. For the N64, that was awesome. That was great. But some people felt that was like, okay, that was their thing that they did there. That was that. Who knows what they're going to do next? But Melee really took it to the next level. And the gameplay, the story mode, everything that they added in there, the trophies and all that, was just a spectacle at the time that it came out. And obviously, people still appreciate it 20 plus years later. Melee makes it number 5 on my list. Coming in at number 4, Phantasy Star Online, the series. I'm begging to the Phantasy Star gods and Sega, please bring this back, because as great as the Phantasy Star Online series is now with the new Genesis and all the different things that they're doing, I would love to have old school Phantasy Star back where there was actually single player campaigns offline and locally with these games. There's multiple Phantasy Star online games on the Nintendo GameCube, and if they brought them back with the local co-op that you can play offline with your friends locally or online as well, it was split screen 4 players with some of these games, I think that would be great. And you have the NSO to do that, and I think it might be hard to kind of get everything going and back up again and all that, but I feel that these games have so much single player content that you can play and experience that it would bring people maybe over to the new Phantasy Star games that are online. I think it'd be a good move overall, but for people like myself who don't want to play the Phantasy Star Online series right now with all the different stuff that they're doing and always online, this would be a great compromise because I do feel that these are fantastic games and they still play good, a bit crusty in today's day compared to like maybe Final Fantasy 14 and some of the newer MMOs, but I think that people would appreciate what they did on the GameCube and they still play great. I was playing it just the other day and had a ton of fun. Plus they're pretty expensive overall to find online like a lot of these games. So bringing these over just for people to be able to play would be really good. Sega, please do it. Number 4 on the list. Number 3, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. And man, I wanted to put this game higher, but there's a couple other games that I feel based off of the franchise themselves need a little bit more shine, all right, to come back. Fire Emblem, we've gotten multiple other Fire Emblem games that are fantastic. Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Engage, Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Awakening. So I'm not trying to be greedy here, but Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is absolutely peak Fire Emblem for many people out there and easily one of the best strategy RPGs made of all time. On the GameCube, it was so underrated in my opinion. Even though it had a mid-80s rating, people did not purchase it like that. People did not see what it was, myself included. I did not see the greatness of what Fire Emblem was at that time, but I think that's the reason why the game has ballooned in price. Well, 1, because Nintendo didn't print as many copies, but 2, because it's such a great game in combination with that. People still want to play Fire Emblem Path of Radiance to this day to see Ike's journey, because when Ike was in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, people were like, oh wow, this guy, okay, Fire Emblem guy, what's this about? And realized, whoa, he's super cool. I actually want to experience his games between Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, which is the Wii game. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance has great characters, great story, great combat, great controls, great nearly everything. I don't have many bad things to say about Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, so that's why I'd love to see it come over to Nintendo Switch GameCube Online, and let's see if we can get that done. Something tells me there might be something up Nintendo and Intelligent Systems sleeve for this game sometime soon. Next up at number 2, Beautiful Joe, the series, Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, and man, this game is incredible. I played it on stream the other day, and it still plays like a modern 2D beat 'em up. I think even still to this day, it's better than like 99% of the 2D beat 'em ups that we get, or I would say 90 to 95%. There we go. Let me not exaggerate too much, but it's better than most of the beat 'em ups that we get today because of the different types of actions that you get, because of its humor, because of its style. Capcom created something that was so sleek and so, I wouldn't say ahead of its time, but so great for what it did. It became timeless at this point. Go back and play it yourself. If you can track down a GameCube, play it any way that you can. Play Beautiful Joe 1 and 2 and see all the cool stuff, the bullet time, the different abilities, the upgrades, the level design, the replay value, so many things that are staples obviously in games before, but staples in a lot of these 2D beat 'em ups or even 3D beat 'em ups. This is what Beautiful Joe did, and it did it at an extremely high level. So Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, both even with their campy, corny story, is even charming as well. And yes, bring Dante somehow. I don't know how they'd be able to do it because he wasn't in the GameCube version, but yes, we need Dante in Beautiful Joe 2 as well, Capcom. Get it done. And in at number 1, Skies of Arcadia Legends. And this game, out of all the games on the list, out of all the different GameCube games, this is the game that I feel is the most deserving to come back in some way because it's pretty much a one and done. All of these games have some type of series, some type of other stuff connected to it, other types of games, stuff that you can play in today's day and say, okay, I get the feeling that maybe that's similar, or there was multiple games on the GameCube or other platforms, with maybe the exception of Eternal Darkness, right? But Skies of Arcadia to me is the quintessential Dreamcast RPG that came over to the GameCube that was enhanced and even better overall with its graphics, with its gameplay elements. It has a great tale of redemption, a great tale of not holding on to revenge and coming to peace with certain things, but also, of course, saving the world, but doing it your way in terms of how you wanted to get it done. And the characters are very well written and fleshed out overall. There's so many subliminal little messages kind of hidden in there with Skies of Arcadia that make it far more in depth that people even realized when they were first playing it back in 2000 or the early 2000s on the GameCube. And it's something that I realized when I was playing the game again. There's a lot of depth and emotion to all these characters and how they were able to do this game. Yes, the game wrapped up. After you beat the game, everything wraps up, and there's really no need, I guess, for a sequel, even though they've kind of hinted at it or wanted to do it. But I think that this would be the first step, right? If we're ever going to see Skies of Arcadia come back, I think that this would be a first step because it's never been re-released on any other platform outside of the Dreamcast and the GameCube. That's it. It started and died on the 6th gen, and there's been nothing. No HD re-releases, no ports, no virtual console, no anything for this game. So I would love to see it come back. It's that good. Love the gameplay in the game. Love the music. Oh, some of the music is just so awesome with what they've done. Love the combat system. Love the two-tiered ship battles in addition to the on-ground, the Legends battles as well. Optional content. Before there was a DLC thing, right? Before they did DLC, they just re-released the game with a new tagline or subtitle. So it's awesome, man. I would love to see it. Skies of Arcadia Legends, bring it back. #1 game that should come back. If there's a Nintendo Switch Online for the GameCube, this is it. So what do you guys think about the games here? And of course, let me know what games that I missed that you would want to see on my list. And once again, I just want to make sure that I point this out here, guys, like Baten Kaitos 1 and 2, Pikmin 1 and 2, Beyond Good and Evil, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Resident Evil 4. These games have already been re-released or might even re-release HD versions and stuff on the Nintendo Switch, so I did leave out some of those. So let me know your favorite games, or even if you want to include those games, let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch top 25 videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.